So, good morning, everyone, again. Good morning, welcome, and thank you for joining today. And again, as usual, we will start with a short breathing exercise, meditation to quiet your mind. Then we can try to generate good intention by thinking, reflecting. May I ask, coming here together, become most beneficial to open our heart, to be able to be cultivate more compassion, more kindness, and more wisdom. Through those teachings, may we be inspired and may we be able to implement in our everyday life as much as possible. Thereby transforming whatever situation presented in our life in any moment, to be able to transform that into something beneficial, transform into the path. And may it be cause and conditions for us to actualize our highest potential, fully awakened state. So we can be most health and the best health beneficial to each and every sentient beings. And may we always be helpful and beneficial to others. May we never be source of pain, suffering to anyone. Okay. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merits I create through listening to the Dharma, may I become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. Sangye Jodang Sogi Jonam La Chanchu Badu Dane Dagi Cheche Gi Ve Sonam Gi love and Sangye Duba, Sangye Chodon Sogi Sonam, Chanju Padu Dane, Dagijin Sogi Besonam, do love and Sangye Duba. So, last couple of weeks, we discussed about transforming whatever circumstances, situations, experiences that we face in our life, transforming them into the virtues, transforming them into the path, transforming them to cultivate the true awakening or the Bodhicitta mind, especially when we have difficult, challenging, painful situations arising, that we try to transform them into something meaningful, something virtuous, as a path to enlightenment, as a condition to cultivate even stronger compassion, bodhicitta mind, and the wisdom. So we kind of spoke about that in terms of transforming it by changing our perspective about the experience, about the situations, by changing our attitudes towards the experience, toward the situations, and then transforming it through the actions, through the actions. And so in terms of that, I think we are in verse number I think LC is 98. I think we finish the LC 97. And so in terms of 98, then here it says, I seek your blessing that I may relate everything I meet to meditations through the skillful means possessing the four practices. So again, in terms of the, we seek blessings from our gurus, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas to bless us, to inspire us, to guide us, to have.
I'm muted now. Okay, I kind of prefer it. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Have a realizations, in order to have the particular realization that we're meditating, that what we're talking about. And so in here, in the first line, blessing that I may relate everything I meet to the meditations. And so that is what we have been kind of discussing, everything that we meet in our life, sometimes good experience, sometimes not so good experience, sometimes so, sometimes, things are going not so well in our life, sometimes things go better in our life, sometimes remain same, so, whatever we meet, and we meet good people, bad peoples, and so, all kind of, and whatever we meet, may we be able to take that opportunity, whatever we face, whatever we meet, we try to use that conditions, that circumstances, that experience, that situations, that object into meditations, and through make it as part of our meditations. Make that itself meditations. Instead of trying to find meditation something different from that itself. That is what we try to do, but instead, whatever we face, we encounter, try to turn that into an object of meditation and make that it meditation, make it that it's practice, And if we are able to do that, then, again, we don't have to struggle to find time to meditation and practice, because 24 hours, whatever we meet, whatever we experience, whatever we encounter, all of them become opportunity to practice, opportunity to meditate. So just to give some example, as it is mentioned in the root text of Lojong, 7-point mind training, when we encounter 3 different objects, in relation to the object, when we experience 3 internal delusions to transform into 3 virtues, and then, training by reciting and remembering the words and thinking on those words, and then whatever come into, whatever you encounter, put into the meditations. And so same here, that the verses in the Lojong and the verse here is meaning is the same, So basically what it means, for example, sometimes we find ourselves in one of those afflictive emotions, Sometimes we find ourselves frustrated, angry, upset about certain things, about someone, about certain situations, Sometimes we find ourselves being that state of mind, as much as we don't want to be in that state of mind, but certain cause and conditions comes, external, internal, and then we find ourselves in that unpleasant state of mind, such as anger, frustrations, upset, So when we find that, recognize that, be aware of that. Oh, anger arises, frustrations arises. Being aware of that, and also as we watch that emotions, and then we see how painful it is, to be in that state of mind, frustrations and anger, how painful it is on emotional level, and how it also affect our physical, it make our muscles of body much more tight instead of being relaxed. It make our body much more tight, how it affect our body, our physical well-beings, So not only it affect emotionally, but it affect also physically, and in someone, if they have some other physical health issues, like a blood pressure, it can go up. If they have some kind of sugar, the sugar level go up, and again, those are it affect that immediately when we are in that state of. So being aware of that, how unpleasant, how painful, how destructive, how harmful it is. And then with that, then you also understand, try to bring that experience to open your heart, as we mentioned before, to understand there are so many beings in the world or in the universe who are experiencing similar like us. They don't want to be in that state. They don't want to be frustrated, but they are being frustrated. They don't want to be upset and angry, but they are upset and angry, just like ourselves, because of certain external, internal cause and condition coming together. And then with our own experience, try to feel how painful it is to be in that state. How painful it is to be that state. And with that, then you try to feel the pain and suffering of others, those who are going in through that state, like ourselves. And then, wishing them to be free from all their pain and all their, in this case, all their frustrations, anger, and the suffering that come through such frustration and anger, may they all be free from that, by me experiencing that, may no one have to experience that, And then if you can do the tonglen, take on their frustrations, anger on yourself, and destroy your selfish attitude, and then send them, all your virtues in the form of, being peaceful, calm, instead of frustration and anger, peaceful, calm, and compassion. Send them the virtues of being peaceful, calm, and compassionate, and loving kindness. So, and same thing, we apply that same thing when we find ourselves in a state of strong attachment, strong desire. Again, we see, we with our mindfulness, we watch it, and we're aware, attachment arises, very strong, uncontrollable desires arises. Again, you see, try to experience what is the result of that when you have that strong desire, strong attachments, how you feel, on emotional level, on physical level, how does it affect on emotional level, how does it affect on physical level, when you have strong desire, you cannot stay still, your mind cannot stay still, your mind keep on going because you want that objects, you cannot stop your mind from wandering and chasing the objects, and therefore when your mind starting chasing the objects, unable to stay still, you cannot focus, and also you cannot find peace. And not only that, and then also because your mind is so distracted, and not peaceful and not still, again, it affects on your physical well-being as well. And again, see how unpleasant it is when you are in that state of mind, how unpleasant it is, how unpleasant it is. And with that, our own experience, again, we allow that experience to open our heart to understand there are so many beings in the world who do not want to be that unpleasant state, where your mind is not still, constantly running all the time, distracted, chasing something, not being happy and satisfied with what you have, but instead trying to chase something else after something, being that kind of dissatisfied mind, unstill mind, how unpleasant it is to be that state. And then again, try to understand their pain, sufferings because of that. And then again, you try to wish, may they be free from all that kind of the desire or attachments and the unpleasant experience of that. And then, you can do tonglen, by me experiencing that, may no one have to experience that unpleasant experience. May I be able to experience on behalf of them. And then if you can do tonglen, taking on all their the attachments and the suffering, which are the result of that attachment on yourself, destroying your selfish attitude. And then you send all your virtues, all your positiveness, all the positive qualities in the form of, non-attachments, being content, totally be content and happy and satisfied with whatever the state is, and mind being much more still, undistracted, So the virtues of non-attachments, the virtues of being very happy and satisfied, sending them that. So you can do that. And then also, again, we observe, and sometimes we find, even though we are not in the state of, we might not be in a state of frustration, anger, maybe we might not be in a state of strong desire, attachment, but sometimes we find ourselves in the state of strong ignorance. And again, because of the ignorance, again, we try to, observe it. And again, attachments, anger arises from the ignorance. A lot of misunderstanding, miscommunications, and a lot of our misdeeds arises from those ignorance, including attachment and anger. So again, by understanding that how that ignorance give rise to all other afflictive emotions, that those afflictive emotions give rise to so much emotional pain and suffering, and through those emotional pain and suffering, how it affects also our physical well-being as well. And through that understanding, again, we allow our mind to open and understand there are so many beings in the world who are experiencing just same like us under the strong influence and control of the ignorance. They do not want to be under the control of ignorance. They do not want to be overpowered by the ignorance, but due to so much imprint from the past, due to so much strong imprint and some external conditions as well, then, so many people are being in the state of being ignorant. And due to that ignorance, so many other afflictive emotions arises. So much suffering and pain arises. Again, with that understanding, again, we try to generate a strong compassion, the wish to them to see them free from all that ignorance and the suffering of the ignorance. And then, we make a strong aspiration. By me experiencing the ignorance, may no one have to experience any ignorance and the suffering from the ignorance. May I be able to experience on behalf of them. And then you can do Tonglen, taking on the ignorance and the result of ignorance, the suffering, together with the result in the form of dark energy, smoke, and destroying your selfish attitude. And then sending all your virtue and positive, all your positive qualities in the form of wisdom, instead of ignorance, the virtue of wisdom, the virtues of wisdom, the virtues of understanding, sending them, giving them that. And so through that, then we are, due to three objects, pleasant, when you see pleasant object, we have attachment. We see unpleasant object, we have kind of aversion and anger. When we see a neutral person, then there is ignorance. And through those three objects, the three delusions arises. And through those three delusions, then we suffer. And so therefore, all sentient beings. And so therefore, whenever any of those delusion arises, then we transform into something virtuous, making that to be more aware of our own mind, our own emotions, helping us to be more aware and more understanding of our own emotions, our own feelings. At the same time, also it taking that opportunity to allow our mind to be more open to feel the pain and suffering of others, and to be more compassionate, empathy. And through that, then we try to take on the suffering if we can through the practice of Tonglen and giving them the virtues. So that is how we try to. So, and those are just an example that we can do that with any kind of disturbing emotion that could arise, and that we try to do the same meditations. So, and same thing that is internal. And same way, whatever external things happens around us, as we mentioned before, whatever external things happens, we try to transform them again to cultivate more love, compassion, bodhicitta, more understanding, more wisdom, and so transforming all of that. And same thing, whenever good thing happen, when we feel compassion, just to give one example, when we feel a strong compassion, again, being aware of that, a compassion state of mind that arises. Again, try to feel it, try to observe it. And how do you feel when you are in that state of compassion state, Is your mind very disturbed, or your mind more happy, peaceful, calm, more gentle, And how does it affect you emotionally? How does it affect you physically? Understanding that better, So through that, we understand our own better of our own positive emotions, such as loving kindness or compassion, And how do you feel about others when you have that compassion? Do you feel good about others, or do you feel negative about others? And so through that, we understand that, and then, I wish everyone can develop such compassion. I wish everyone can cultivate such a loving kindness. I wish I could have that loving kindness, compassion all the time. May I and all sentient beings be able to cultivate that such loving kindness and compassionate mind all the time. May they be filled with such loving kindness, compassion all the time. Then again, you send all your virtues or positive energy in the form of loving kindness, compassion, and within sending it to all sentient beings, and thinking all sentient beings are filled with that loving kindness, compassion, just like you have. And your own, whatever small loving kindness, compassion you have cultivated now, being stabilized and very strongly rooted, so that it continue to grow further and further, bigger and bigger. So that when you do that, then you have taken whatever you meet into Dharma, into meditations, practice. At this moment, you are going to either negative state of mind or positive state of mind, whatever, or more neutral state of mind. And that very moment, you try to use that experience or that emotions or that feeling or that state of mind to make that as object of meditations. And take it for meditation and make it meditation and practice. And same with the external situation we already discussed before. We already discussed about that. So internal, external, whatever happened, we try to transform that. So that is the first, then the meaning of the first line. May I relate everything I meet into meditation and practice, And then, true skillful means possessing 4 practices, Another way of transforming, whether it's internal or external conditions, into something in the path, something into the virtues, something into a positive, something into a meaningful, is through the practice of what you call 4 practices, or 4 practice or 4 applications, and those 4 practices here referring in the lojong, or 4 applications or 4 practices that you see in the lojongs, is the practice or applying applications of the creating marriage, the practice or applications of purifying the negative karmas. And then, the applications or the practice of making, offerings to the, spirits, and then, making offering and requesting for the help from the Dharma protectors, So those are the 4 kind of practice or application that here is talking about here. So again, if we take that, for example, when we ever experience any kind of unpleasant experiences, whether it's internal, external, sometimes we are not feeling well emotionally, emotionally, sometimes we are not feeling well for whatever reason, sometimes our mind feel low, sometimes our mind feel very low, sometimes we might even feel a little bit of kind of depressed, and sometimes we feel very impatient, and frustrations, and again, anger, whatever those we go through, and then externally, sometimes we have physical health issues, problem with our health. Sometimes we have a difficulty with, at our workplaces, with the people, workplaces, our colleagues, we have a challenging time with them, Sometimes we might have challenging time within our families, within our friends, somehow we have due to some misunderstanding, miscommunications, due to some different views, different ideas. Then again, we have sometimes situation get bad, and even within our dear one, loved ones, as our family or friends, happens. Sometimes we lose, whether it's our very close, dear, someone we lose. Sometimes, we lose our job, our wealth, or sometimes we struggle to find a job, or sometimes even we find a job, we don't enjoy the job, we struggle with the job, because you don't enjoy it, so there are a lot of challenges, situations, that we will encounter in our life. Sometimes there is a lot of things happening, politically in the whole country itself, whole in the world, that affect us. Sometimes because the climate, the problem with the climate, problem with the weather, again, it affect our mind, our body, and so that, again, that affect us, disturb us, so whenever those things happens, by remembering, because all of them are unpleasant. Whatever we are experiencing for ordinary beings, for us, it affects us in a way, it becomes very unpleasant, something unbearable, something miserable, something that you don't want to happen, but that is happening. Something you don't want, but something happened, something painful, something miserable, something unpleasant, when that happens, then we try to remind ourselves. Another practice, a technique here Lojong is saying is, it is a blessings of the Buddhas, blessing of the Gurus, to remind us, is like a reminder through the blessing of the Guru, through the blessing of the Buddhas, is a reminder us, if you do not want suffering, and if you want happiness, then, wake up, is a reminder through the blessing to help us to wake up, and saying, if you want happiness, you need to create cause and condition for happiness. It's a wake-up call, morning wake-up call, okay? Morning wake-up call to remind us what? To remind us, if you want happiness, you have to create cause and condition for happiness. Because sometimes we want happiness, but we don't create the cause and condition for the happiness. So happiness doesn't come. So the happiness doesn't come, Just by wishing, it doesn't come. You have to create cause and conditions. And so sometimes we forget. So that is a reminder. So therefore is blessings. Through the blessings of the Guru and Buddha to remind us. And therefore, since it's a reminder to create more cause and conditions, if you want to be happy, then through that we'll try to create, by engaging in the virtues, we try to create more merit. Merit are the cause, virtues and the merit are the cause and condition for our happiness. Temporary, ultimate happiness, external, internal happiness, or comfort, So therefore, I need to create more merit. I need to create more virtues. I need to create more positive karma. And therefore, trying to engage into, making offering to the holy objects, the three jewels, Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, making offering to the holy objects such as three jewels, paying homage to them, practicing generous to those who are in the needs, practicing the generosity, those who are in need, rejoicing to the virtues of others. When someone is engaging in any kind of virtuous act or any virtuous attitude, any virtuous mind, rejoicing in them, and then also engage in it through the practice, such as the offering of mandala and so forth, and then, paying homage and respect, to the holy objects, prostrating, circumambulating, and so forth to the holy objects as a way of paying homage, as a way of paying respect, And through that, from those different practices, from those many different virtuous practices, then we create more positive karma, more virtues, more merit, and the more virtues, more merit, more positive karma, the more happiness, more things, more happiness in our life, more and more happiness in our life, because we have created better cause and conditions, for that. So that is one way. So that is the first practice or application, engage in the practice of creating more virtues or merit or positive karma. Secondly, when all things are not going so well in our life and we are experiencing all these kind of external, internal challenges, difficulties, why do we experience that? Why do we experience that? We do not want that. We try very hard to avoid them, but we still experience those unpleasant experiences, those painful experiences. Because it's a ripening of, our own negative karma. It's a ripening of our own internal negative karma or negative potentials. Due to certain external, internal cause and conditions, then that give rise to internal potentials or negative karma or negative potential that give rise to all these unpleasant, painful experiences. So therefore, again, thinking, is a blessing. If you don't want suffering and pain, unpleasantness, we have to stop creating cause and condition for such suffering and pain, painful experience and unpleasant experiences. If we don't stop creating cause and condition, even you do not wish, it will come. It's not because whether you want or not, whether you wish or not, it's all our creating the cause and conditions and stopping creating cause and conditions. So if we do not want suffering, we have to stop creating cause and conditions. We have to stop creating new cause and condition for the suffering, and we have to purify for all the cause and condition which we have already accumulated in the past. No? So two things. One, we stop creating new cause and conditions for the suffering. The other things, the cause and conditions, the negative karma, which we have already experienced in the past, we try to purify them and reduce and clean them. And so therefore, again, remembering, oh, this is a great blessing. It's a great blessing from the Buddhas, the Gurus and Buddhas to remind us we need to purify more. It's a reminder, again, to purify. It's a reminder to purify and a reminder to stop creating more cause and condition for the suffering in the futures. So again, because we forget, sometimes we forget we need to purify. Sometimes we forget we need to stop creating more cause and conditions. So it's a timely reminder. It's a timely reminder. So again, that timely reminder is the blessing. Is the blessing. Blessing doesn't come like a light coming, even though of course we visualize when you do visualize, but not in reality that is, there's light coming you like, and then you see, oh, transforming yourself, and you becoming light, Blessing can come in many different forms. So this is the blessing, is awakening. Blessing come in a way for us to be awakened of something that we are not aware of, or something we forgot about it. Blessing come in the form of inspirations. So those are the real blessings, sometimes we think, oh, blessing, waiting for that light to come, it's not like that, So this is a blessing, when we started to be more awakened, that is the blessing. And when we are being reminded, because we were forgetting that. So, and through that awareness, through that awakening, oh, I need to purify more negative karma that I have accumulated in the past. I need to stop creating more cause and conditions which are negative karma for the suffering. And on the basis of that, then, we try to do the purification through the practice of 4 open-end powers, So again, all of you know, I don't need to go details, but, basically I just kind of remind by applying whatever form of purification you do, there are so many different forms of purifications, whether you frustration, whether you do Vajrasattva, whether you 35 Buddha practice, whether you do Vajrasattva purification practice by relying on the mantra visualizations, or whether you do meditations on emptiness of the negative karma itself, and the act of creating negative karma, the person who is creating yourself, the object in relation that you create, so meditating on the emptiness of that, all of that, or whether as a way of creating, as a way of purifying, whether you, practice a generosity to support and help, whether it's an organization, whether it's individual, those who are in the needs, who are benefiting and helping others, or whether you support to, build as a purification, whether you support to build, holy objects, whether it's a monastery, whether it's a center, Dharma centers, whether it's a, stupa statues, or whether it's you help to print the Dharma books, whatever form of as a purification, whatever those different virtues that one can engage into as a purification, whatever it suits your minds, whatever you feel more beneficial, effective to you, whatever you get, but trying to, when you do purification, try to bring the four open element into any of all of those practice. When you try to do practice, any form of different practice of purification, the most important is try to bring the element of the four open power, trying to bring that four open power. That is the important for the purifications. So, the open power objects or reliance, so that is, going to refuge to the Buddha Dhamma Sangha and having a bodhicitta motivations, for the benefit of all sentient beings, so that is the one of the open powers, the open power objects or reliance, and then secondly the open power regret, remorse, So again, this is the positive regret, remorse, that's something that leads you to the, transformations next, not being kind of caught up in the past and guilt, but actually being aware of what mistake we have done, acknowledging that, and, being aware that it was not helpful. It was not helpful, So we learn from that experience. We learn from that past, and so being aware of that, how harmful it is, and through that awareness, acknowledgement, or regret, remorse, then you move forward, And the next, that is third, then cultivating a strong resolution, determination, commitments, not to make same mistake, not to create the same negative karma again in the future, That making strong determinations or promise, commitment not to do that again. So strong commitments. At least we will try. At least I will try all my best not to do that again. In making that strong. And then, as a way of purifications, on the basis of that, then we engage into any of the virtues as a way of purifying. And so that is the open power of the antidotes. So the antidote is engaged in any of the virtues, as a way of purification. So those are the four open powers that you try to bring those elements in whatever purification practice you do, so that is, and then the third, so that is the purification. So that is the second practice among the four practice or the four applications of the practice, and the third one is offering to the, spirit, sometimes there is possible, sometimes there can be a possible, sometimes, due to our karma ripening, then, externally, we might be hurt by someone, a person's or animals, So one, our karma ripening, and then immediate external condition can be, that you happen to be place, wrong time, When someone is very agitated, you happen to be there, and you happen to do something that irritate them, and then become nasty to you, And then you feel hurt and harm, isn't it? And you happen to be in the wrong place and the wrong time. You happen to be at that time when someone is very irritated. And you happen to do something in that moment that is irritating that person, But basically, what is happening is basically your karma is ripening. And because of that karma ripening, you happen to be in the wrong place, wrong time, with the wrong persons. And because of that, then that person's behave or react, response in some way that affect you. And then you experience that, the hurt and the harm. And then and sometimes not only human beings, sometimes we happen to be in wrong place, wrong time with the animals. And then through that, again, we feel the hurt or harm, we receive the harm, the pain and suffering. Sometimes it is, we cannot see it, but there is unseen, external, unseen, sometimes it is possible there is that unseen other beings, spirits, Again, just like human beings, spirits are just like another being, just like human beings, They are just like ourselves, samsaric being, unenlightened with the delusions. And sometimes they are helpful, sometimes they're not so helpful, just like human beings. Sometimes they get upset, sometimes they get compassions, and sometimes they get irritated by others' behavior and action, and sometimes they don't. So it's just like, and sometimes again, due to our karma ripening, we happen to meet them, some of those spirits, or encounter them, and then that kind of irritate, that make them upset, whatever, and then through that someone can receive harm from them, and then sometimes something is wrong, because of those harms, so that become immediate cause and conditions, So when that happens, then, we make offering to them, the spirit, we make offering to the spirit, I'm sorry for having hurt you in the past. I'm sorry. I'm sincerely sorry that I have hurt you and harmed you in the past, knowingly, unknowingly. Apologizing sincerely to them, making offerings, and then thanking them, that when I'm totally lost and distracted in samsara, through these actions, it reminds me to practice the Dharma. You are helping me to direct me into the Dharma. Thank you very much for helping me to be on the path. Thank you very much for helping me to be reminding me to be on the path to practice the Dharma more, And until I achieve enlightenment, please continue to remind me again and again. Again and again, when I'm lost on the path, when I'm distracted from the Dharma, please remind me again and again. So you make offering, and we request that, and so we do that, So that is what, And again, in Tibet, in Mahayana Buddhism, in the Mahayana Buddhism, there is also a concept of Dharma protectors, Again, unseen beings, that we ordinary beings might not be able to see them, but just again, they are more, beings that are known as the Dharma protectors, those who have taken pledges, commitments, promise under the order of great masters, great beings, that they will protect those who practice the virtues, those who practice the Dharma, And of course, among them, again, there are Dharma protectors. There are different different level of Dharma protectors. Some of them more enlightened than others, Some of them less enlightened than the others. There can be many different levels of Dharma protectors, just like we human being has, just as other beings has. But basically, whatever their state of enlightenment, their practice is, but they had certain power or certain ability to be able to support, help in certain way, and they have made those pledge. And so again, sometimes when we have obstacles, external, internal obstacles, sometimes it might be helpful, beneficial, to make offering to the Dharma protectors and requesting for their help to clear the obstacles, to create the right cause conditions, so that they might be able to help to change the immediate temporary cause and conditions. And that could change our karma, and that could change our experiences, And so therefore, and requesting them, to clear all the obstacles to practice the Dharma, to be on the path, to be able to actualize all the path within ourselves and to achieve enlightenment, to clear all the obstacles and to help to gather all the right conducive conditions, so that our mind become the Dharma become the path. And so there is no obstacles on the path, so then by making offering, then we make those requests. So those are the four practice that is in this second line when it says about the four practices, the four application that practice, that is what is referring to here in Lojong practice. Through skillful means, possessing of the future practices. That is what it means. Four practices. That is what it means. Those are the four practices. So by applying, so when those conditions, situation, experience happen, and by applying all the four conditions or one of those, all the four practices or one of those practices, by applying that, we are transforming the difficult situation into virtues. We are transforming those difficult situations or circumstances on the path through actions by, by engaging those different practices, those different practices. So that is transforming the suffering into the path, and difficult situation into the path. And then the fourth line, and that I may make this life of freedom and richness greatly meaningful. So when we are able to transform external, internal experience, conditions, situation into the path, then our life becomes meaningful. Our life becomes meaningful, because we have been able to transform everything that arises, everything that we encounter, everything that we face into a virtues, into something meaningful, something into transform into the path to enlightenment, transform into cultivate loving kindness, compassion, to the progress of loving kindness, compassions, and the true bodhicitta mind. And so there's nothing more meaningful than to do that. The most meaningful that we can make our life meaningful is to practice the true bodhicitta mind. If we can practice the true bodhicitta, the relative and ultimate bodhicitta mind, there's nothing more meaningful than to be able to practice that. And the whole lojong is to help us to engage in the practice of those two bodhicitta, the conventional ultimate bodhicitta, you know. Yeah, there's nothing more meaningful when we use our life to cultivate more loving kindness, compassion, more awakening mind of bodhicitta. When we use this life to develop more wisdom, more understanding, and more wisdom, through that kind of love, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and wisdom, you know, then we become more wise and more compassionate. With the more wise and more compassionate, we are able to take care of ourselves better, and we are able to be more benefit and to give more to the society, to the world, to the all sentient beings. We are able to be more meaningful, more beneficial, more helpful to others as well as oneself. And so therefore, there is nothing more meaningful than to be able to engage in the practice of two bodhicitta mind, you know. And when you are able to do that, you know, you find peace, calmness, joyfulness in this life and all futures, you know. And that will also lead to enlightenment and the happiness of enlightenment through the practice of such wisdom and the bodhicitta mind or two bodhicitta mind, you know. So that is how we can make our life meaningful. That is how we can make our life meaningful. So, you know, that is how we make our life meaningful and precious. When you are able to do that, your life becomes meaningful, your life becomes precious, worthwhile. You know, otherwise, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says, otherwise it becomes like we came to the world to destroy the planet. You know, that is what is happening. More and more people, and the planet is experiencing the effect of that. And that's why we're having a lot. And, you know, but if we use this life to develop those bodhicitta mind and to be more benefit to others, you know, then definitely it's worthwhile to be one being in this planet. There's a meaning, there's a purpose to be in this planet. There is a purpose to be in this planet, you know. Sometimes, you know, we people ask and we ask questions, you know, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose for me being in this world? What is the purpose for me to be in this planet? Well, you know, as it says here, the purpose of us being in this planet, the purpose of us being in this world, the purpose of having this life is to work with our mind and to grow more spiritually, by cultivating more stronger loving kindness, compassion, bodhicitta mind, and more wisdom. And through that, to be able to be service and help and benefit to the world, to others. So that is the meaning of that. And then lastly, through practicing the commitment and precept of thought transformation, you know, so we can make our life meaningful by practicing the commitment and the precept of the thought transformations. So those are like when we talk about the 7 point of mind training, we talked last time, you know, that is the 6 and 7. The 6 is the commitment of the mind training, and then 7 is the precept of the mind training, and there are 18 commitments of the mind training and 22 precept of the mind training, and I think we don't need to go all of them. And all of those commitment and precept are tools. They are a tool. They are tools or method to be able to cultivate the loving kindness, compassion to bodhisattva mind, and to be able to maintain. So those who have not cultivated, to help them to cultivate, and those who have already cultivated, not to lose them, but to be able to maintain it. And those who have able to maintain it, not only to able to maintain just it, but to be able to develop even more further, bigger compassion, bigger loving kindness, even bigger bodhisattva mind, and even more profound wisdom, and more, and so those commitments and precepts are the tools and method to do that. And when you are able to keep those commitment and precept, we are able to cultivate and maintain and develop those bodhisattva mind. And because of that, we will be more help and benefit to others. At least we will not hurt and harm others intentionally. And when we try to not to hurt and harm others knowingly, intentionally, instead when we are trying to help and benefit others, then our life becomes meaningful. And that is how we can make our life meaningful. And that is how, So I don't know, maybe there might be some questions, but I think from last week, there was one question. I think we didn't have time to answer, so I didn't answer. Because last week we talked about, bringing the practice in our everyday life, in everything that we do. And even though we cannot apply, just as here today also it says, rely on meditation, everything that relate with everything we've encounter into the meditations, so or practice, so basically, as much as we want to make 24 hours part of our practice, but it doesn't come naturally. We have to develop. We have to practice and develop. So as I mentioned last time, we try to, at the very beginning, we try to apply the practice meditation to one activities that you do in the daytime. Until you become so familiar with that, it becomes your habit. So it doesn't require so much effort over the time. And you don't forget it. With the time, then you again apply that practice with another activities that you do every day, another activity that you do every day. And so 2 activities, and slowly 3 activities, 4 activities, 5, 6, 7, and then that is how slowly we bring that practice in 24 hours, everything that we do. And some, Mary was saying, this, I haven't heard that word before, but stacking the habits. Like stackings of the habits, building of the habits one by one, basically bringing the practice, habit stacking, by bringing the practice in one of the practice or activity that we do and then applying that. And in relation to that, the questions that Mary asked, and which I didn't have the time to give answer before, is, she said like she feeds her pets, like of course everyone who has pet, they feed, So she's trying to bring the bodhicitta practice in that, but how she was asking how can you apply the wisdom, the emptiness part, and again, because we can bring both practice within that same act of feeding your pets, every day, which you do, maybe 2 times, 3 times, I don't know, some 2 times, some 3 times, or if you are also giving water even more than 2, 3 times, so basically, again, it might take you 5 minutes or even less than 5 minutes, that your very pet, that you are very attached to, is empty of inherent existence. There's no inherently existing path as it appears to your mind. The food that you are giving to the pet, and that help that pet to be, to continue to live. The food itself is also empty of inherent existence. The person, me, who is trying to feed the pet, I'm also empty of inherent existence. The very act of feeding, that itself is empty of inherent existence. Even though they all are empty of inherent existence, but to our consciousness, to our mind, they all appear as inherently. The objects, the pet appear as inherently. The food appears inherently. I myself, to me, it appears inherently. The act of giving, it appears inherently. But in reality, when we analyze, none of them exist inherently. Therefore, the pet itself, the food itself, the act of giving, and I myself, they all are like illusions. They all are like illusions. And so therefore, reminding ourselves, they all are illusions and none of them truly exist. So you try to bring that, the wisdom, the practice of the wisdom within the context of that, in that. And there is a one, maybe it might be helpful, it might be some helpful, I think, maybe. According to one of the sutras, a sutra calls the clouds of precious jewel, precious jewels. So the sutra of the cloud of the precious jewels. In that, it explains few different example how we can apply practice to different things that we do throughout the days. Of course, I did mention to bring the bodhicitta and the wisdom in every practice. If we can apply that, that would be wonderful. But also others in that sutra, it says, when you offer, as like an offering, whether it's flowers, or an incense, light, so forth, to the holy objects, such as the image of the Buddhas or stupas and so forth, you think while you are offering, such as the incense and so forth, By me offering that, may all sentient beings, smell of all sentient beings, unpleasant smell of breaking their moral discipline be clear, and may all sentient beings achieve the scent or good smell of moral discipline, the practice of moral discipline. And then when we clean, when you clean, it says, you can think, by me this cleaning, may all sentient beings act of misdeed, be ceased. May no one have a misdeed, may no one act misdeed, so therefore by me this cleaning it, may I be able to clear all these misdeeds, and may all sentient beings have a pleasant behavior and actions, virtues or pleasant and beautiful behavior and actions, when we use, umbrella and fall, may this umbrella, by me using this umbrella, may I be able to protect all sentient beings from all the rain or the heat of afflictive emotions and obscurations, And then when we go into the center or monastery or temple, or maybe even in our house, we think, we think, may I be able to, enter the path of enlightenment. So as we enter the door of whatever your house, temple, center, whatever, may I be able to enter the path to enlightenment. May I be able to enter the path to enlightenment to liberate all sentient beings. Mm-hmm. And as you come out of the house, out of the door, then you think, may I be able to, bring all of them, all sentient beings from the samsara. So bring them all from the samsara to enlightenment. And when you open the doors, may I be able to open the door of all sentient beings to enlightenment through the exalted wisdom, And so like that, I think there are many others. When you get up, when you sleep, when you wash, it gives many, many different similar kind of examples how you can use every act of what you do throughout the day to make it practice, to make it meditations, to make it meaningful. And as I said before, each of them, it might take you few minutes, not minutes, even maybe few seconds to think that way, And so it's not going to add up, It's not going to make your washing more longer. It's not going to make your drinking more longer. It's not going to make your driving more longer. You still have your time. You can still keep your own time, but at the same time, if you take few seconds, few moments to apply that, then it can become meaningful. For example, when you get up, for example, when you sleep, again, you think of sleeping like Buddha, when he passed away, parinirvana, great enlightenment. So also we think that I'm sleeping like the Buddha to achieve the fully enlightenment, And when you get up, when you awake, then you think, I'm awaking from the delusion and obscurations, I'm awaking. So when you awake, when you get up, then you think, I'm getting up and awakening from the delusion and obscurations. Mm-hmm. When you need to go somewhere, I need to go, I'm going in order to be benefit to all sentient beings, Mm. And when you wash, you visualize and think that I'm washing and clearing all the negativities, all the delusions, all the obscuration of myself and all sentient beings, like that. So with each of those, so we can apply that. So we can bring that practice in every day. Those are just some examples that Buddha gave in one of the sutras, and that will give you a little bit some idea. And you can, I always says, in our practice, we can be creative. And the basic thing is how to bring the virtuous thought in whatever we do. How to bring something meaningful, virtuous thought into whatever we do. And that's the key. And in that sense, you can be creative, that you can, when you do something, that you can relate with something virtuous thought. So you bring that, and that you can remember that easily and remind you easily something that, and so then you try to apply that, and then it can be helpful and meaningful to transform our everyday life, 24 hours, into the virtues, into the path, into the meditations, into the practice. And I think that is the key, And I think for most of, families, who have job families, you don't have so much time to take off to do practice meditation. Of course, it is important to take some time, even if it's 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day, to be on the cushions and to practice and meditate. But, you cannot take whole day, whole weeks, whole months, whole year like that. Most people, they have other responsibility. So then you feel, I don't have enough time to meditate, practice. So here, if you apply those practice, then you have 24 hours every day to practice. You have 24 hours every day to meditate. So then we have no more excuse. So here the Buddha is saying, you have no more excuse to say, I don't have enough time to meditate and practice. If you know how to apply it, then you can practice, meditate 24 hours. And I also mentioned about while you are watching the TV, about last time, Lama Yeshe used to say, watching your mind is more entertaining than watching the TV. There's more drama in your mind than actually what drama you see in the TV, the movie and TV. We are attracted to that because there's a lot of drama, excitement, because so much dramas in those, whether you are watching a TV shows or movie, whatever. And he said, if you really start watching your mind, there's more drama than that. There's more excitement than that, So while your eyes watching the TV, your mind watch your own emotions, your own, how you feel, while you are watching the news, while you are watching the movie, while you are watching the sport, entertainment, whatever you are watching. Your eye is watching there, but when you watch that, it affects your emotions, your feelings, different ways. And one side of your mind watching them, how you respond emotionally, that is another that is another practice, meditation and skill that we can apply, while you are doing what you are doing, but at the same time, bringing the practice meditation into that. Okay. So, there are some questions. Question from student Geshe-la, can you talk about Dharma protector practice as if we need empowerment for those practices? I spoke about it because it came in this teaching, about those 4 practices, and one of those is that, but personally, I'm not a great fan of those practices, to be honest. Okay. My view, sometimes maybe some of my friends says, I'm kind of the rebel, and sometimes I might be like that, of course, if you have the empowerment, it's good. But even without the empowerment, there are some praises you find in prayers. You can recite those praises. And you can ask the help, whether you have empowerment or not, you can ask. Of course, if you have empowerment, there are certain more kind of sadhana or like similar practices. But, so basically that is the case. My view is, if they are true Dharma protectors, okay, my view, okay, it's my view. My view is if they are true Dharma protectors, they have made the pledges and promise from those great enlightened being master, they will protect anyone who practice the Dharma. So whether you pray them or not, whether you request them or not, they should be protecting you. That is the pledge they made. And because you are practicing the Dharma. The pledge they didn't make that I will protect those who praise to me, that make offering to me. The pledge was that I will protect those who practice the Dharma. So from that perspective, because this Dharma protectors has been also kind of big issues, over the times. And so that is my view, instead of getting in all this kind of not knowing which is the real protector, which is not real Dharma protector, who is the enlightened Dharma protector, who is not unenlightened Dharma protectors, and so many Dharma protector, all of this, the main is you try to practice the Dharma. If you try to practice the Dharma truly, purely, they should be protecting you. That is the place they made. That is the promise they made it. So that is my personal view. When I was younger, I used to recite much more Dharma protector prayers, but over the time, I decided, my mind changed, my perspective changed, Sometimes when you read different Dharma protector, in some they say they are unenlightened, another they say is enlightened. All of these, there's all these confusions and all of that, And I'm not enlightened to decide myself which is real Dharma protector, who is not real Dharma protector, who is, and so I decided I try my best to practice the Dharma, and that is the promise they make. Hopefully they will help if I'm practicing the Dharma, and so that is my take on that. And I bring that up because, but normally, I'm not so great fan of it, that particular practice on individual level. I'm not saying that is what you should follow, because, every lamas, some of my teachers, lamas, encourage to do those practice, but my own personal view has changed over a lot of things, situation that has happened over the times and all of that, so on this particular issue of the Dhamma protectors. So I'm seeing whether there's any other questions. Yeah, I think so. I guess also time is running, so okay. Maybe we'll do the dedication then. May all beings everywhere plagued by the suffering of body and mind obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtues of my merit. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled, with a mind weighed down by depressions. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicine be effective and wholesome prayer bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be free from their ailments. Whatever disease they are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be free. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful day again. Thank you.